Hi everybody, welcome to today's FindTheBestCarPrice.com video. Today we're going to look at the Toyota Corolla Hatchback SE Nightshade Edition. This model comes in with a sticker price of $28,990. Let's get started with our tour.
And if you're looking for a sporty vehicle that rides well, it handles well, it just drives well overall, and offers the option of a manual transmission, this is definitely something that you should consider. This is the SE Nightshade that we're going to take a look at today. And if you want to see more trim levels, you might have to be patient, but as they come in here at Yoakum Toyota, I will definitely show additional trim levels to what we're looking at in today's video.
The overall look and feel of the Corolla Hatchback is of course racy and sporty. It features triple J LED headlights that are standard across all trim levels, and if you step up to the XSE trim level, you will find the addition of standard LED fog lights. The 18-inch black wheels definitely set off this Nightshade edition, but tell me down in the comments what style of wheel you prefer and why. It's all finished off with the rear roof spoiler that definitely adds to that sporty, racy look, and believe it or not, actually gives it that low-profile stance. Under the hood is the 2-liter 4-cylinder, putting out 168 horsepower and 151 pound-feet of torque. The CVT transmission in this particular model has 10 preset ratios that essentially allow, when using the paddle shifters or the shifter itself, to manually go back and forth between, well, supposed gears, we'll say, to actually feel like you're shifting a true automatic transmission. There is also an innovative launch system for first gear to achieve better feel and acceleration. Manual IMT helps to avoid stalls with the 6-speed manual transmission during initial drive-off and aid in smoother upshifting at the same time. You will also find rev matching technology to help the driver hit the perfect downshift.
When it comes to cargo space, you do have the option for enhanced cargo space, and there's two advantages to that. Number one, it doesn't cost anything extra. It's just a reconfiguration of what's available here, and it gives you 6 additional cubic feet. That may not sound like a whole lot, but if you do add that, you're going to say, wow, that does make a pretty good difference. And what I would say is an even better option here is that not only does it not cost anything extra, but it also doesn't decrease the gas mileage. And you also have, of course, the cargo cover essentially right here that you can use. That is removable. As you can see, I'll show you a couple of different shots, and of course you'll see that you can maximize your cargo space by lowering the rear seats. If you want to do that, there is a latch on the outside of the top of each seat that you just pull on and allow those to fold down. And another great thing here, I talked about how there is a manual transmission option available in addition to the CVT here with the Corolla Hatchback. Another thing that people often tell me they're not happy about is if a vehicle comes with a tire repair kit as opposed to a spare tire. So the good news here, no tire repair kit. Right here under the floor is the spare tire and all of the tools required to change that if you ever need to. And when it comes to the interior, you will find a combination of gloss and matte finish throughout. It actually looks quite nice. I like the design here on the seats themselves, giving this Corolla a more of a sporty look, which I think, since it looks as sporty as it does on the outside, it needs to look that way on the inside. It most certainly does. Now, let's just be honest here. What about headspace and legroom? Well, I'm 5'10", you can kind of see where my head is right here. I do have enough leg room to sit back here and be somewhat comfortable. It just depends on where the seats are set. But I think I would be a little more comfortable, obviously, in the front seat. Now, as funny as it might sound, here's something you might not expect as a convenience with this Corolla, even at the SE trim level, and it's this. As you can see, just one touch down, and then again, I'm gonna hit the button for the driver's side window, one touch up. Now that might seem like no big deal, but here's what I think is a very nice feature, kind of an added bonus. That's not only available on the driver's side window, it's at all 4 doors. So you've got that one-touch feature for lowering and raising the windows. A very easy vehicle to see out of overall. That's not always the case in this day and age. You usually have a blind spot somewhere. But with Toyota Safety Sense 2.0, it's even better because you've got all those great safety features that I talked about earlier in the video. Remember, that link down in the description of the video will give you everything you need to know that we don't talk about in today's video to keep it from being too terribly long. And the steering wheel itself, comfortable. Steering wheel mounted controls. You've got that standard feature available on every single vehicle over here on the left-hand side of the steering wheel, the turn signal lever. I hope you know how to use that, and you do. And the standard across all trim levels, 8-inch screen here, the infotainment screen, all the typical features and functionality you would expect to find there. One thing that I've discovered over the course of time that apparently drivers like to have is knobs to control the radio and change stations and all that kind of stuff. And while you can do that other ways, that just seems to be something that a lot of people like for whatever reason. Of course, you've got your backup camera, good clarity on that, so a nice clear view behind you when you put your Corolla hatchback into reverse. And you remember sport mode, if you want to drive in that. That's definitely what we're going to do when we head out on our test drive in just a little bit. And one thing that I really like here, you won't find an option to turn the auto stop start feature off. Why is that? Because it's not here. That is a big bonus. Comfortable seating, that's for sure. And while this isn't necessarily meant to be an ultra high performance vehicle, it does have a little bolstering built into the seats for driver and passenger in the front. So if you track your Corolla hatchback, well, you shouldn't be flying all over the interior, well, too terribly much, I hope. Especially the passenger. When you're the driver, that's always a lot easier because you know what's coming. They don't. Speaking of the driving experience, let's hop out on the road and find out exactly what that is really like. Okay, as we get out here on our test drive, just taking off from the red light right there, I feel that the way that this car is geared, it's really geared to get down the road quickly and accelerate very well. Now, a couple of things I didn't touch on earlier that I figure are best to just talk about here as we're on the test drive. Number one, you do have an adjustable steering wheel. It's manually adjustable. I'll show you where the adjustment for that is, or the release to be able to move the steering wheel wherever you want, whether it's tilting or telescopic adjustment. And while you have the shifter paddles on the steering wheel, if you want to row your way through the, well, kind of makeshift experience of changing gears. It's a CVT transmission, so obviously you're not really changing gears. There's just multiple settings that kind of mimic that. And we'll try that out later on in the test drive as long as I remember to do that. But the other thing I wanted to talk about is the fact that you can also do the same thing with the shifter itself. Maybe you just like that experience a little bit more. All you're going to do is bump that over to the left. You'll see how to do that. It's pretty obvious based on the diagram right there to the left of the shifter itself, and just showing you everything on the screen. Now, one of the best things about test drives in Shreveport, Louisiana is the fact that not only do I get to typically say something sarcastic about the bad drivers I encounter on my test drives. A lot of you have told me how much you like that, so we'll see if that happens today or not. But another big advantage is the fact that the roads in Shreveport, for the most part, are a great place to test the ride quality of any vehicle that I test drive. And the road we're on right now, just listen. Kind of hear the road noise a little bit. That tells you that this road is not smooth, and it may not look that bad just looking through the lens of the camera, through your view on your computer or phone or tablet or television, whatever you're watching on. But believe it or not, that road right there is, well, definitely not smooth. And so here's the thing. I can tell you that this Corolla rides very, very well. And so we're going to get out here as soon as this light changes, give it a little bit of an acceleration test. And while the horsepower under the hood isn't necessarily a big overload, let's see how we do here. You can hear that CVT doing its thing. And actually, once it gets into a little bit of a higher RPM range, it gets down the road decently. Yeah, it's not a huge amount of horsepower, but again, gearing has a lot to do with that. You're in a fairly light car, and it's just made for having a good time. Now, another thing that I did mention earlier in the video that I do want to make sure I tell you, I checked at the dealership just to make sure I wasn't giving wrong information. Of course, if I was, the YouTube correction Nazi, let me say that correctly, because there's people on YouTube who sleep better at night because they corrected somebody during the day in a YouTube comment. Yes, that does actually happen. You can laugh because it's true. And if you don't laugh, that means you're probably one of those people that does that. But I said there is no auto stop start feature here in this Corolla, and that is true. I couldn't find any way to turn it off, so that was my first clue that it may not be here at all. And went and talked to one of the salesmen just to try and clarify that. So that, to me, is a big advantage. And you might say, well, what's wrong with the auto stop start feature? Well, number one, it doesn't save you enough gas to really justify having it. And number two, if you ever have to replace your starter, which you will have to do so if you keep your Corolla long enough with a feature such as that, or any vehicle for that matter, because it's going to get far more use than it would without that feature. So you're going to save money right off the top right there without that feature being available. Now, I can't really have too much fun here because of where we are, but we can just change the road we're driving on. I mentioned we were going to get on a road where we could test the cornering and handling of the Corolla Hatchback. And for some reason, I just feel like I should do a Sam the Cooking Guy impression. So, and here it is. If you don't watch Sam the Cooking Guy, then you probably have no clue of what I just did. But you'll probably go watch his videos after you finish watching this one, I would imagine. And be forewarned, Sam uses some language that I don't use in my videos. No offense, Sam, but just for people who may not like that kind of thing, you'll know. Now, this is not a very sharp corner right here, but we'll start there, kind of get a little bit of handling. And by the way, if you're wanting to know, no, I did not leave those black marks right there. That is not from me driving the Corolla today. Now, we are going to get up here to where there's a little bit sharper corner. And from what I've experienced so far, I will say this, I didn't film it, but between the last scene and this scene, I was on one of the most washboarded out roads in this area of the city, or outside of the city, I should say. We're out in the parish right now. For those of you who don't know, in Louisiana, we don't have counties, we have parishes. It's the same thing. But I was very impressed at the smooth ride quality. So how about the cornering here? I'm just gonna stay here doing about 60 miles an hour and just see how the Corolla handles this. Wow, that is very impressive. Very minimal body roll, not having to give the steering wheel much input to get through that corner. Sometimes I drive vehicles through there and the experience is not as good as it probably could be because I'm not as used to the steering and handling characteristics of the vehicle I'm driving in that particular test drive. But I tell you what, this was very easy to just drive right on through there very smoothly, very minimal body roll. And to me, that says a lot about the handling characteristics of this car. I'm gonna try the shifter paddles out here and see how they work. You can hear the changing of the pitch of the engine. And even though, like I say, it's a CVT transmission, so you're not going to have quite the same experience. I'm going to move the shifter over to the left. Actually, that's really impressive. A lot of the time, the responsiveness is not quite in sync, but it really is here, whether it's with the steering wheel mounted shifter paddles or the shifter itself. I thought we were about to get our classic bad driver right there. It looked like they were going to pull out in front of me, and if they had, I would have had to have taken some evasive action because I don't think I could have stopped in time. But we don't want to get a video quite like that. I don't mind getting bad drivers on video. I just don't want that kind of interaction with them. But well, what do you know? One of those classic Shreveport drivers that just is so impatient. They want a great look at the vehicle I'm driving in the video, so they had to turn in front of me so they can get a little bit closer look than they would have if they had just stayed in their lane over there and waited for me to pass. They just couldn't wait. they had to turn right in front of me so they can get an up-close look instead of just letting me drive by and take a look.
To learn more about the model in today's video, visit the link in the description for a detailed comparison between trims and pricing for the vehicle we featured or any vehicle you may be interested in. These pages feature information such as our recommended trim level based on price, value, and features. Thank you for taking the time to watch today's video. We look forward to seeing you next time.